Hello. I've been watching various Alice Cooper ranking videos, and very interesting they were. And I decided to do my top 10 Alice Cooper albums. There are 28 or 29, perhaps now, albums from Alice Cooper, and it's very difficult to trawl through the lot. Um, but here's my top 10. I think a 29 album video would be a bit long. And I'd like to apologise for not including your favourites in my list, but that's because I prefer other albums to them. For example, Trash, people enthuse about a lot, and I think Poison, one of the tracks on Trash, is one of his best records, one of the best songs that Alice ever did. There's a couple of the good tracks, but to me, it's a sort of an album that seems to trying to be a typical rock album of its time, which of course it is. But I think typical rock albums should be left to perhaps Bon Jovi or AC/DC, who are very good at that. Um, Ironically, John Bon Jovi is actually on the Trash album. But and also The Eyes of Alice Cooper is one that everyone seems to like. Um, and I enjoyed it, but as I say, this is my top 10, and these are the records I prefer. And I haven't got physical copies at hand of the albums, but anyway, my number 10 is Billion Dollar Babies. And I know this is a lot of people's number one album, but these are all albums of great quality. Um, it's got some classic songs on it. The musicianship's great. Got the best, perhaps the definitive version of "Hello Hooray" on it, which was written, I think, by a jazz musician, but I'm not sure. At least it's a definitive rock version of it, and it's got "Elected" and "Raped and Freezing" and "Generation Landslide" and "No More Mr. Nice Guy." But it's my least favourite of the early, of many of the early albums, because I think the band became a bit of a pop group during this. On the earlier albums, there's a sense of exploration of music with the Alice Cooper band, and that seems to have gone a little with this in favour of a kind of slick, well-crafted pop approach. Not to say there aren't great songs on it, there are, and I love it. I think it's a great album. Anyway, and there's some fun songs on it as well. My next one, I've got Billion Dollar Babies, by the way, on CD and on vinyl. And the vinyl cover's great. You open it up and you get all these kind of like baseball card pictures of the band. And there are some fake dollar bills or billion-dollar bills as well. It's a good fun album. My next one, number 9, is Welcome to My Nightmare. I've got this at hand to show you. The CD, Welcome to My Nightmare, which is Alice's first solo album, and it was a big deal at the time. It was a TV special. I've seen films of productions, and it's a concept album, story of Stephen. I don't know how autobiographical the concept is, but there are all sorts of surreal um, episodes in it. And of course, it has the iconic ballad, Only Women Bleed. It's scary, but it's fun. I don't think he had as good a band as the early band. He very rarely did. But they are good. There's some good musicianship on it. There's some musical, like Broadway musical music mixed in with the rock. great performance from Alice, who's playing a sort of a fun compare version of his rather scary shock rock stage persona from before that. And this is the thing about the number 10 as well, number 10 and number 9. They're both albums which kind of feed into the theatrical aspect of the band and the stage shows with the elaborate props for the time. Elaborate props, of course, since then there have been huge kind of wellings up of stage productions by all sorts of bands and artists. Right, now then, my next one, and I've got this on, I've had it on vinyl, I've got it on CD as well, but I haven't got it at hand. It's Killer. Now, Killer is great because it's the early band. There's a sense, what I call a sense of exploration of music on it, and it's great, like in some works of some of the classical composers, like Mozart or Beethoven's symphonies, and these guys were exploring a key, using an orchestra to explore a key and its possibilities. And it's not this album, like a great many good rock albums, it's not an exploration of a key as far as I understand it, but there is this sense of exploration of music. There's a musical journey, and this is a very hard rock musical journey. But as I said, the early band is terrific on it, and there are great songs, and the kind of the movement of in it, which expresses music in depth, is called Halo of Flies, in which there are quite a few transitions of different musical passages, not categories, passages. There's another theatrical bent towards the end with Dead Babies, and Alice was, of course, famous for chopping babies' heads off on stage, and, well, obviously little dolls on stage and things like that, and he gets his head chopped off at the end as well. There's a character, the killer, in the songs. Under My Wheels, one of the great Alice Cooper songs. Be My Lover, another great song. Right, so that's Killer. The next one is From the Inside, number 7. From the Inside, which is a later album, and there's a great band on it. I still prefer the early band as bands go, but this album is great because it's based on Alice's experiences in a sanatorium where he was recovering from alcoholism. These days, of course, it's called rehab. And I know about this because I was in a rehab unit not long ago, and they hadn't then, I don't know whether they have since, but they hadn't separated fully the people with serious mental issues or mental health problems from people who are undergoing clinical rehabilitation and so on. And these people used to wander into the other wards, and of course they were going up the walls and generally behaving in a way that was scary to the other patients. And I remember thinking, these people have their backstories, they're all human beings. And Alice here, with some good humour as well, but he's not mocking. I don't think he's mocking them at all, really. So this is a series of vignettes about various characters, including himself. And one of the songs he sings about a letter that he wrote to his wife, because he realised that she'd never actually seen him sober before. But anyway, the next one, number 6, is it number 6? it is. It's Love It to Death. Now, Alice Cooper started in the late 60s, and they did 2 albums on Frank Zappa's label, Bizarre, and they're very poor albums. I've not got them in my top 10. But I wasn't really surprised. As I listened to them and read stories about them, I realised that Frank Zappa didn't really understand the band, and I don't think they understood him either. Talk about chalk and cheese, really, in the pop world or the rock world. He only signed them because he liked the effect they had on the audience. He saw the audience with their jaws dropped and so on. It wasn't just because of the music; it was because of the stage, the antics on stage. They started off as the Nas first, I think, and also they called the Spiders at one point, and they settled on the name Alice Cooper. And there are many stories about how that name came about. But I think the prevalent one is that Alice Cooper was an ancient witch who was no doubt burnt at the stake. And if she was anything like Alice is on stage, I think she deserved it. No. But so that's Love It to Death. It's got some great songs on it. The great sense of the band exploring music again. There are majestic moments musically, and of course the famous song is the most famous song is perhaps Ballad of Dwight Fry, in which Alice plays the part of this guy who's been locked up in a sanitarium or an asylum, or in an asylum, and there's all these thoughts about wanting to escape. And a lot of people don't like, as I understand, the closing song, Sunrise, which is a song written by Rolf Harris, who was an Australian painter and musician. But I think it works really well. It's one of the few optimistic moments of Alice Cooper. It does sort of raise you above all the various scary horror film like songs that you get on it. And of course it has the famous anthem. Alice was a great purveyor of anthems in the singles chart. I'm 18. Anyway, the next one is going to be a surprise to most people, I think. And it's, oh wait a minute, there's Love It to Death, black and white photo on the front. Right, the next one is Muscle of Love. Now, this tends to get slagged or underrated, but I think it's a great rock and roll album. It's not connected to theatrics in any way, and it's as though the band sat down and said, look, we're being pigeonholed as this shock rock act. Let's do an honest rock and roll album. And that's exactly what they did. In fact, I like this album for the same reason that I don't dislike, but just don't like as much as others, the album Trash, in that it is just an honest rock and roll album with some great songs, and it's musically very good. So what can I say about that? Anything else I can say about that? I don't know. But Muscle of Love, a must listen for me. The next one is a much later album, and it's number 4, and it's called Hey Stupid. This is musically superb record, and the songs are terrific, and I like the anti-drug stance on it, because it's a long time after Alice's battle against drug addiction, and the music is just colourful and and it's powerful. It's good and rocking. I think by this time, in fact, by the time Trash came out, he'd got a band that was as good or nearly as good as the original band, and it shows on this. And I've got Hey Stupid in a little package with Trash and the Last Temptations, and that's 3 albums in one package, and it's called Temptations from Alice, I think, collectively. But anyway, Hey Stupid is one of my favourites, number 4. Number 3 might surprise some people. It's School's Out from the early band. No. There are, School's Out. The school desk front with all the scribbles on it. The members of the band have scribbled their initials on it. And this is a fun concept album. It's surprising how many of these bands that I was... it's surprising how many of these albums that I've been ranking and compiling by Alice are concept albums. He was very good at doing concept albums, and they were mostly fun, I think, fun albums to do. There's a sense of fun in the songs, except for perhaps one of them, which I'll come to later. But School's Out, it's a good hard rock album. There's a great sense of exploration of music on it. School's Out, one of the great anthems that he did, perhaps the best one. He's not exactly a teeny bopper, Alice, but some of his songs are aimed at teenagers or about teenage life. There's more depth than the usual teeny bop anthem that you get elsewhere. But anyway, School's Out. Looney Tune, my favourite track on it. It's dark, cartoonish scenario. Someone who's clearly going insane. I don't know whether it's connected with drugs or not. And there's Gutter Cat versus the Jets, which has a bit of West Side Story in it. And there's a bit of West Side Story in the last track as well. In fact, on this entire album, you get what I call musical allusions to things that you may have heard at school. There's bits of West Side Story, as I say, and there's some jazz on Blue Turk, which is another great song, and there's this kind of quasi or near classical piano of My Stars. All the songs are great, and the last track is like the kind of band that you'd have at a school prom at one time. I mean, these days they probably have a metal band. They're always trying to keep up to date in schools. And that's great. It's a great composition, and it has the band playing along to all the saxophones and all the usual band things, like the swing bands, a kind of gentle swing band that you'll get in school bands. Excuse me. And there's a spoof song, Alma Mater, and it's a spoof Alma Mater song, and it has the usual, the usual Alice twist of, hey, do you remember when we put the snake down little Bessie's dress? I don't think Mrs. Axelrod was too impressed by that. Paraphrased a bit because I can't remember the exact words. Now, School's Out, great fun concept album, great driving album. And the next one is the one that's a bit more serious. And number 2, I've got Brutal Planet. And I haven't got a physical copy of that at all. I meant to buy one from the store, but it had closed for refurbishment, and then I had other things to do. But I suppose I'll have to send for it through eBay or Amazon or something like that. But I've streamed it and listened to it, and it's a bit more serious concept album, the story of this desolate planet. And I've got a video of the Brutal Planet tour, one of the shows from that. I think it was in London, and it's just one of those timeless albums in which I think he's at his most heavy metal musically. Again, the great band that he had around that time. Now, my number one album, and I don't think anyone agrees with this to my knowledge in all these various videos, ranking and listing and all the rest of it, best to worst, top tens, etc. But my favourite Alice Cooper album is called The Last Temptation, another concept album with a great story. There's a comic book that goes with it, which I have not read, but I mean to read it. Excuse me, the computer keeps bobbing about. What can I say about this? The songwriting, and this is at its very best. The imagery and all the statements. There are philosophical matters, and this Alice's relationship with his own persona is explored, not explode, explored. Freak show and all the rest of it, just very high quality album, and the musicianship again is fantastic. So without further ado, I think it's the last. I've got The Last Temptation on the one on the little package with Hey Stupid and Trash. So that was a nice buy, well worth buying. So The Last Temptation is my favourite one. Wonderful, colourful concept album, musically and in other ways colourful. Last Temptation, number 1. Number 2, Brutal Planet. Number 3, School's Out. Number 4, Hey Stupid. Number 5, Muscle of Love. Number 6, Love It to Death. Number 7, From the Inside. Number 8, Killer. Number 9, Welcome to My Nightmare. And number 10, $1 Billion Babies. And just an afterthought, you may as well listen to Welcome to My Nightmare 2, or Welcome to, with the number 2, My Nightmare, which is a much later album, but it's a nice companion piece to Welcome to My Nightmare, and it's a little bit more scary. I suppose it's more traditionally, more what you expect of Alice Cooper, you might say. So, there we have it. And this is Sherwin Green saying bye-bye and good night and God bless you all.